Out of these all three rounds,
Yeah.
which round was more difficult for you?
Isn't very difficult for me, maybe because I already draw a lot, so it.
हेलो फ्रेंड्स,
Hmm.
वेलकम टू आवर चैनल मैथ्स वाला सूरज महतो। और आज हम लोग हमारा सेकंड पॉडकास्ट लेके आए और हमारे जो चीफ गेस्ट होने वाले हैं रिद्धि चावड़ा, एंड सी हैज़ गॉट प्लेसमेंट एट ज्यूस लर्निंग फॉर द रोल ऑफ UI UX डिजाइनर, and we will discuss on that with her, and apart from that we will also discuss on communications. So welcome Riddhi to our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So first question I would like to ask you that could you please tell me the entire process for the selection at Zeus Learning in short?
Yeah, so the process mainly had three types of evaluation. There was an online aptitude test, there was an offline pen and paper test, and there was online technical interviews, right? So we had two technical interviews and one test each. The online aptitude test had two sections. There was the general aptitude section and design aptitude section. In the general aptitude section, the questions were similar to whatever you'll find on any kind of placement aptitude test, except there weren't any coding questions. And the design aptitude test specifically didn't have any questions on designing, but it was more about testing how you think and how you approach a particular problem. So it was testing your spatial reasoning, comprehension abilities, and how you are going to interpret certain data. So it had a lot of questions that had a graph, and you were supposed to interpret that data and answer a particular question. So it had questions like that. Then the offline pen and paper test, it had three main questions. The first question was you had to draw up a design with your pen, and they had listed out all the functionalities of an application. So you're supposed to create a design for whatever functionality they've given, and you have to do it however you like, but it has to best implement those functionalities, right? The pen and paper test was 1 hour long, so it was really important to manage time in that test. And it also had an essay question. So the question itself was not difficult, but since you only have 1 hour, it was like you have to
One
manage your time well. And the last question was they'd given you screenshots of a particular form or any kind of application, a screenshot, and they'll ask you what kind of changes you could make to better the UI or UX of this particular screenshot. So those were the three questions in the offline test. And the online technical interviews, there were two rounds. The first one, both of them had similar kind of questions, but it was more focused on kind of assessing your abilities in design and how you are approaching design. So they would ask you questions related to what you think of a certain design, and what are your views on UI design, and how important you think UI design is in the current world scenario and stuff like
like basic knowledge of UI design and your
that.
expertise in that. Out of these all three rounds,
Yeah,
which round was more difficult for you? Like which was the
I
more
would say
difficult to pass out of
technical
these all
interview.
three rounds?
For me, it was the technical interview because I was very nervous,
Technical interview.
uh, and it was online also, so it was very difficult for me to stay calm and answer the questions. I was not able to stay focused.
And similar question I had asked to many students, those who won't get selected. They tell me that pen paper test round was a very difficult as it was a pool drive and lots of students were there. So it was not easy to
Mm-hmm.
get selected out of them. So how do you manage to get selected in
Oh,
lots of students? I was also there, so I saw there were many students participating in that as it was a poll drive in whole Mumbai, and students from Pune were also there. Then how do you manage to get
right.
selected in that test?
So I think for UI there were about like there was a class full of students, around 30 students, I think, and I think that the test itself was not very difficult. It was doable if you have a good level of UI knowledge or you understand design. The questions were not that difficult, but it was just the fact that it was a single hour that you had to manage everything in that 1 hour, and there was an essay question. So an essay is long; you have to write at least a page. So that was kind of difficult to manage for people, I guess. And since there is an essay question, it also tests your abilities to speak in English fluently,
Yes.
right? Uh, Obviously, you're writing it, but it was about how well you're able to express your ideas. So I think that if you don't have good English, if you are not able to quickly, drop a sketch, then it will be more difficult for you to, get through such a test. But it wasn't very difficult for me, maybe because I already draw a lot. So the sketching
Yes.
part was not like time consuming for me. It was more about taking time to think and understand what kind of design I want to make.
So we can conclude that in pen paper test that if someone have good English and fluent English and have a good skills of drawing, then they can manage it
Hmm.
within 1 hour. So it won't be
Yeah,
difficult
and
for them.
also hmm, you also need to have a basic understanding of design, also UI UX both.
Okay. So
Hmm.
now I would like to ask that yeah, you must have started learning UI designing in second year or third year.
Hmm.
Then how do you started and how do you mastered in it?
Okay. So I didn't specifically learn UI UX before. Like when I heard about the Zeus Learning placement drive and I found out that they have the UI UX role, that is when I actually started learning about it. And I only watched some YouTube videos before the test and did not prepare for it as well as I wanted to. But if you really want to prepare for, a UI UX design role, then the most important thing for you is to practice a lot. Right. So, but to get started, there are a lot of online resources. It's important to understand which resources to refer to. There are some great courses on Coursera that you can get for free if you apply for financial aid. There's a course by Google, there's a course by Meta. You can do those courses. They will give you a basic fundamental understanding of what UI UX is. You can also refer to a lot of YouTubers online, and there are a lot of blogs also that share information about UI UX. If you refer to these resources and you consistently practice every single day and you try to make your own designs, then you will improve and you will get the hang of it. That is basically how you're supposed to do it. I mean, that's how
Yes.
I am doing it.
Okay, okay. Now another question that a student may stuck in that what kind of tools that we need to have hands-on practice on them for UX designing. So any tools specifically
Um,
that you are
yeah.
using?
Yeah, Figma and Adobe XD are the two main tools that are used in the industry. And there are other tools, some tools for Mac, iOS, but mostly everybody uses Adobe XD and Figma. So Adobe XD, I guess you need a subscription for that. But Figma is free, it's online. So at least master Figma. And then if you can get your hands on Adobe XD, then you should do that also.
So as you have mentioned that all the questions were easy for you, but is there any question that you was stuck in and you have to think twice or thrice for before doing that?
Yeah, yeah, there were the design aptitude questions were a little difficult. So some questions related to there were questions about the like I said, comprehension ability questions. Those were a little difficult and confusing. And the questions with interpreting data, that was also a little confusing. But mostly I had trouble with the online interview because I did not expect them to ask the questions from the aptitude test in the interview. So I was not
Oh,
expecting that, and I was surprised when they asked that. So I was caught off guard, and
they
I was
ask
not able to
aptitude
focus.
question
And
also.
yeah, from the
Okay, okay.
test, they gave me the same question that we had solved in the test, and they were like, "Do you want to change your answer?" So I
Oh,
was kind of, I was not ready for it. So, and it's like when two people are watching you solve a question, it's more difficult
yes,
to focus. So
yes, yes.
I had a
It
lot
had
of problem with that.
it had additional pressure on us.
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
and now I would like to ask you that what were their accessing criteria, marks accessing criteria, that they have selected you. You may have skills that is different from the others that help you to get
Hmm.
selected. What were the three skills that
Yeah.
help you to get selected in that?
I think that as a UI UX professional, now this is just what I think. Uh, I feel like it's really important to have a good communication ability, because you have to work with a lot of people, cross functional teams. You have to work with software developers, testers, clients, and also users. So in order to be able to understand the needs of all these people, and to be able to communicate with them smoothly, and then effectively translate that to other people, and be able to bring that into your product, it's really important that you have good communication. So I think that is one very important factor. It is also important that you obviously have a basic understanding of UI UX. So the technical skills are important, and
Yes.
also the fact that you are you know willing to learn and willing to grow. If you don't have an open mindset as a designer, then you're going to be stuck a lot. So I think that are the three important things that they are looking for, and they're looking for a UI UX professional.
So as you have mentioned, the first skill as communication. So we see many
Hmm.
students that they don't have good communication skills and they may lag in interview. They might have good knowledge in their technology background and they
Hmm.
have hands-on practice on all the tools, but they didn't get selected in interview just because of communication. So how can they
Hmm.
improve on it? Any tips you want to give?
Mm, I think that you can improve your communication. The best way to do it is to actually talk in the language that you're focusing on improving every single day with the people around you. Talk in English with your family, talk in English with your friends, everybody. It doesn't matter if people laugh at you, just do it, because that is what is going to allow you to feel comfortable in that language. And the thing is that the problem that we have, if you're not able to talk properly, the problem is that you are thinking in another language and then you're translating it into English.
And
So if your
yes,
native language is Gujarati, mine is Gujarati, and if I'm thinking in Gujarati and then I'm translating to English, then it is going to be a problem. It's another process that you have to do. A lot of people think in Hindi or Marathi, whatever their native language is, and then they translate. So that takes time. But if you practice to, think in English, you talk about things in English to people, you read a lot in English, you watch movies, you listen to podcasts, you consume a lot of media in English, then you'll be able to start thinking naturally in English. So that one process of translation, that goes away. So that makes you more fluent. So that is important.
another thing I would like to ask you, as you are from ICSC board, I think so. Am I correct? No.
CBSE. CBSE.
Okay, CBSE board. Actually,
Hmm.
CBSE and ICSE board, they have good communication skills. But if I talk about a state board, in their school also, they don't speak English. Teacher also don't speak English.
Hmm.
So they may lag there. And there is a difference between CBSE, ICSE, and state board. And that difference create additional pressure on them when they
Hmm.
enter in their college and they have to do presentations and all. So they lag there, and especially
Right.
any tips you want to give to that kind of a student who haven't spoke English till their 10th standard, or maybe they are from the vernacular medium and that's why they
Hmm.
also don't know how to communicate in English. So for them, what kind of tips you would like to give? Because they may
If you're
have
from
to
a,
start from
hmm,
the base. It may be possible that
yeah,
they may have to start from the base itself.
right, definitely.
So
Now,
it won't be easy for
hmm,
them to consume podcast and directly communicate with others.
right,
So
right. Yeah, that is difficult. Hmm. I'm not the best person to give advice on this, because I did not have to go through the same thing. I was
okay.
okay English from the start. Like when I was in school, I was speaking decent English, and like you said, the teachers at my school were also speaking English and encouraging the students to speak in English. So it was easy for me to get through that. But when you become an adult, it's more difficult for you to adapt to a new language, as compared to if you're in school and you're learning a new language. Because as you're an adult and you're trying to learn English, especially in India, it, some people shame other people for not being able to speak good English. They're like, "Isko nahi aata English," aisa.
Hmm.
But the thing is, you need to ignore that kind of stuff. And if you're from a vernacular medium, like you said, yeah, it's difficult for them to consume podcasts directly, because there's if you're consuming podcasts from people who are not Indian, so there will be a problem with understanding the accent
Yes.
of
Accent.
other English speakers, right? So I would suggest that they can read books, because you can read it at your own pace. You can start with books that have a simpler kind of English, which is not that difficult to understand. You can read books, you can regularly understand the vocabulary that is being used, you can actively take classes on grammar in order to understand it. And most importantly, I think journaling is really helpful. If you sit down every single day and just try to write about your day once in English as well as you can, then it is also going to help you improve your ability as opposed to trying to talk to other people, because when you're talking to other people you're more nervous, but just writing in your own book at your own pace, that also will help, I think.
Okay. And one question that I used to ask to every student whomever I have podcast with, that
Hmm.
nowadays also college uses assignments for our internal marks and all that. So is there okay that we use assignments? We have to write lot of answers for that. Instead of can't we do the presentation on that topic? So it may be helpful for a student also, because when they have to give presentation, they will study the whole things and they have to present. So they will practice it well. So I think that instead of assignment, teachers should move to that also. What's your take on that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I think that's a great idea, because when you're doing a presentation, you really have to understand it, because you're going to be asked questions by the teacher, and you have to. When you're writing an assignment, you can just copy somebody else's assignment. If as long as you're like doing it genuinely, then it's okay, then it's helpful. But most of the people just copy the assignments, right? So presentation is a great idea because it will help them develop confidence. And I myself, even though I have decent English, I feel very nervous when giving a presentation. My hands
Yes.
start sweating, and I fumble at the start. So it's very important to gain the skills of public speaking, and this is a great idea. I agree with you.
Apart from all these skills of technical knowledge,
Hmm.
what other kind of activities that you like to do at your home or anywhere?
Uh, I'm uh, very much into creative things, all sorts of creative things. So I like to draw and paint a lot. I also like to crochet and knit. So I make a lot of crocheted stuff like beanies and scarves and stuff. I paint a lot. I make digital art. That is my main gig, sort of. I've been doing it for 2 years. Um, and if you want to check out my stuff, you can find me on Instagram at Riddhi Makes. That is basically my main account now. I used to post my art on another account, but I've shifted to this other account that encompasses all my artistic endeavors.
Yes.
Mm.
So at last, one question that I would like to ask you:
Mm.
any message would you like to give
Sure.
to junior from your department or our college or any other college, second year, third year student
Hmm.
who are watching this podcast? Any message would you like to give them to excel in the field of UI UX designing?
Sure. Well, first of all, if you're in first year or second year, I would specifically like to say that if you're watching this podcast, you're definitely on the right track. At least you're aware that you need to start learning about placement and how that stuff is going to work out. When I was in first year, second year, I did not even think about placements. I did not know where I was going. So I feel like if somebody had told me, hey, you need to start preparing, you need to learn aptitude. So for UI UX specifically, I think that the longer you practice, the better you get. So if you start very soon, that's great. And it's not specifically a very hard skill. It's you need to have an eye for it, and you to develop that you need to observe a lot of designs. So if you are already you're sure that you want to pursue UI UX, then you should start looking at other people's designs to get started. And there are a lot of resources on YouTube and the internet in general that will give you a kind of roadmap about how to go about it. So I think that if you're really sure that you want to do it, then you can definitely look at those, or you can also just text me, and if you have any questions, I can also help with that.
Okay. So thank you, Riddhi, for joining us, and I hope that this podcast will help to many students. And thanks for watching the whole podcast and subscribe to our channel for more.